A $6 million investment from the city of Beloit will fund 2 affordable housing projects. WIFR reporter Anthony Ferretti talks with one resident who has mixed feelings about this project.
Beloit City Council President Kevin Levy says he's optimistic this investment will bridge the gap after tentatively approving the funds at Monday night's meeting.
I do think Beloit definitely needs more affordable housing.
One Beloit resident who has lived in the city for more than 60 years says affordable housing is an ongoing issue, but it's improved in the last 20 years. Her worry is if the new units will be managed properly.
It doesn't do any good to have affordable housing if you have children, family members, and they're not safe, or the conditions in the place itself is not safe. Maybe sign contract paperwork as to how they are going to take proper care of these apartments and the people.
Half of the $6 million investment will create a 55-unit multifamily development at the former YMCA site at 1865 Riverside Drive. 46 of those units will be for residents with incomes lower than the county median income, anywhere between 30% and 60%.
We realize that the rents are skyrocketing and people that are working jobs need to make sure that they have a work-life balance and can afford the places where they live and not have to make decisions on health care or medicine and rent.
The rest of the money will fund units at 3500 Eagles Ridge Drive. Out of 94 units, 84 of them are for families who make 50 to 60% below the county median income.
The residents said we need more housing development, and this is just one way that we as a council are listening and doing what they want us to do.
There's no timeline in place for the projects, though Levy says they will work with the city staff to ensure they get the development plans in place and move forward from there.
Thank you, Anthony. And this affordable housing creation is one of the projects using the city's tax incremental financing housing fund.